Pharaoh of Moses, a man who dared to defy God the Creator and said to his people, "I am your supreme Lord." So God drowned him and made him a lesson for all creation until the day of resurrection. A man who was tempted by the world, money, fame and power, so he was a lesson for those who came after him. Pharaoh of Egypt. How was he? What was his real name? And how did he kill every child who was born? And how did he dare to defy God and make people worship him? And his meeting with the prophet of God, Moses, and what was his end, and where is he now? We answer all these questions together. Dear viewer of the Mother's Memory channel, let us sail into the character of Pharaoh of Moses. The real name of Pharaoh Moses. The opportunity came on a golden platter to the famous French scientist and physician, Maurice Buell, who died in 1998, to examine two of the most important and famous mummies of the pharaohs of Egypt, Ramses II and his son Merneptah. After examining the mummies and conducting many historical and archaeological studies, he confirmed in his book that the pharaoh of the Exodus was only one of them. Many historians confirmed that the pharaoh of Moses is Ramses II, one of the greatest kings of the 19th dynasty. This belief is strongly prevalent among the people of Israel, while others believe that the pharaoh of Moses was King Merneptah, the eldest son of Ramses II. Based on the first appearance of the word Israel in Egyptian history, it appeared on a tablet during his reign and is now in the Egyptian Museum under the name of the Merneptah tablet. There are religious narratives that confirm that the Pharaoh of Moses was a foreigner and not an Egyptian, as he was a descendant of the Hyksos from the children of Israel who came to Egypt from the Negev desert, crossed Sinai and settled there. Some historians said that the Pharaoh of Moses was from Egypt, from the Sharia governorate, specifically the city of Zekizig, and that they arrived during the era of the 12th dynasty. Historians have said that Moses Pharaoh is king Meneptah, and some have said that Moses Pharaoh is Thutmose. According to a study conducted by Dr. Rushdie al-Badrai, entitled Who is Moses Pharaoh, who claims that he determined the time of the Exodus by approximately one day, which is April 9, 1495 BC, according to calendar calculations. Just as they differed on the name of Moses Pharaoh, there are also differences between historians, some of whom said that the name of that pharaoh is a name, and not a title. The Egyptian Dar al-Ifta previously confirmed that the most likely statements among interpreters and historians confirm that the pharaoh of the prophet of God Moses, peace be upon him, is Ramses II, which agrees with many historians and scholars who said that the pharaoh of the Exodus is Ramses II, the most famous king of Egypt. And this is what contemporary historians confirm, the most famous of whom are the American William Albright, who died in 1971, the German Otto Isfeld, who died in 1973, and the American Merrill Unger, who died in 1980. Dear viewer, the Egyptian civilization is full of secrets and mysteries and showed humanity much less than it hides. Among those mysteries is the name of the Pharaoh of Moses, and left it to the efforts of historians and scientists. According to what the Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawa said, the difference between historians in the name of the pharaoh does not prevent the truth mentioned in the Holy Quran that the Pharaoh of Moses reached his power and wealth to the point that he dared to challenge God in his kingdom, and God performed a miracle in him that successive generations will see until the day of resurrection. Let us delve into that. One night, Pharaoh saw a vision or a dream in his sleep that terrified him greatly. In this dream, he saw fire coming from Jerusalem, Palestine, and heading towards Egypt, devouring the houses of the Egyptians and leaving the houses of the children of Israel intact. So Pharaoh hurried to his advisors and told them about the dream and brought the priests. The interpretation of this vision was that one of the sons of the children of Israel would come out in the future and overthrow Pharaoh's rule and overthrow his kingdom, and that a child from the children of Israel would be born at that time and would be the reason for the end of his rule and the disappearance of his authority. Pharaoh felt very afraid for his kingdom. So he issued a brutal decision to kill every male child born to the children of Israel. This decision was extremely harsh, as he sent his soldiers to search for pregnant women from the children of Israel. And when a male child was born, they killed him immediately while leaving the females alive. Pharaoh's goal from this measure was to weaken the children of Israel and control them completely. Over time, Pharaoh's soldiers monitored the births and killed every male child born. This situation continued for many years, causing great suffering among the children of Israel. But despite Pharaoh's unjust attempts, God's will intervened, so that Moses, peace be upon him, would be the child who would end Pharaoh's tyranny. In the midst of this cruelty and injustice, Moses was born, and God inspired his mother to put him in a coffin and throw him into the Nile River. One of the strange ironies in this story is that Moses, the child whom Pharaoh was trying to kill, was found and raised in Pharaoh's own palace. Pharaoh's wife adopted him, loved him, and took care of him. Thus, Moses grew up in the home of the one who was trying to kill him, under the care of the one who feared him. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace and became a prince. And here God's power is manifested in his will, as the unjust Pharaoh killed all the children who feared losing his kingdom at the hands of a child. The same Pharaoh who raised and cared for Moses, and he did not know that the one who raised and protected him was the same one who would end his rule and kingdom. Moses grew up, but an incident happened to him while he was walking in the streets of Egypt one day. Moses found two men fighting. One of the men was from the children of Israel and the other was from the Egyptians. The Israelite man asked Moses for help against the Egyptian who was oppressing and assaulting him. Moses intervened to defend the Israeli. So he struck the Egyptian. He struck him hard with his hand or fist, perhaps in his chest or in a sensitive part of his body, which led to the death of the Egyptian. When Pharaoh learned that Moses had killed the Egyptian, he decided to punish him and kill him. So Moses fled. After Moses fled Egypt, after the incident of killing the Egyptian, he went to Midian and got married there and lived for a period of time. On his way back to Egypt after years, God revealed to him for the first time on Mount Terror, telling him that he had chosen him as a prophet and ordered him to return to Egypt to call Pharaoh to worship God and free the children of Israel from slavery. At first, Moses was afraid to confront Pharaoh, and also because he was not good at speaking. So he asked God to help him with his brother Aaron. So God answered him and sent Aaron with him. When Moses returned to Egypt, he and his brother Aaron went to Pharaoh's palace and asked him to believe in God and let the children of Israel worship God freely. But Pharaoh was arrogant and rejected Moses' call and accused him of lying and magic and felt bored. Moses responded to this cruelty with wisdom. But Pharaoh was arrogant and did not listen to Moses. In the face of Pharaoh's continued refusal, Moses showed many miracles that God gave him to prove against him. And the most prominent of these miracles are the staff that turned into a snake. When Moses threw his staff in front of Pharaoh, it turned into a huge moving snake, and this miracle astonished Pharaoh and those around him. The white hand. Moses put his hand in his pocket and took it out white and shiny without harming it. And this is another miracle that Moses showed in front of Pharaoh. The challenge of the magicians. After Pharaoh saw these miracles, he accused Moses of being a skilled magician and decided to challenge Moses with magic. So he gathered the best magicians of Egypt to confront Moses in a big feast in front of the audience. When the magicians began to throw their staffs and ropes, they turned into snakes and people thought that they were moving by magic. But when Moses threw his staff, It turned into a large snake and swallowed everything that the magicians threw. After this great miracle, the magicians realized that what Moses was doing was not magic, but rather a power from God. So they prostrated to God and declared their faith in Moses and his Lord. Pharaoh became very angry after the magicians believed and threatened to kill and torture them. But the magicians refused to give up their faith in God and insisted on believing Moses. As for Pharaoh, he continued his stubbornness and refused to believe in God. So he began to increase his persecution of the children of Israel and increase their torture and humiliation, and announced that he would continue to confront Moses. After Pharaoh's continued refusal, God sent a series of verses and fatwas to Egypt to warn Pharaoh and his people against them. The flood. A great flood came that destroyed many crops and properties. Locusts. Locusts spread everywhere and ate crops and plants. Lice. Lice appeared in large numbers and spread among people and animals. Frogs spread everywhere in an annoying way. Blood. The water of the Nile turned into blood, and the Egyptians were no longer able to drink water. Every time a tribulation occurred, Pharaoh would plead with Moses to ask God to lift the tribulation. As soon as the tribulation was lifted, he would return to his disbelief and tyranny. Finally, God commanded Moses to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Moses gathered his people and they went out at night toward the Red Sea. When Pharaoh learned of their departure, he gathered his army and decided to pursue them. When Moses and the Israelites reached the sea was in front of them and Pharaoh's army was behind them. At that moment, God inspired Moses to strike the sea with his staff. The sea split and a path was opened in the middle for the Israelites to cross safely. When Pharaoh and his army tried to catch up with them across the sea, God drowned them in the sea. And this was the end of the tyrant Pharaoh. Yes, this is the end of every arrogant person. This is the end of everyone who was deceived by his power, wealth and prestige, making him a lesson and a sermon for all creation until the day of judgment. Pharaoh, who was helped by his minister Haman and his injustice and tyranny, drowned in the darkness of the sea and lost this world and the hereafter. So will we learn the lesson? Pharaoh, who dared to challenge God and his kingdom and was tempted by the world and its fleeting pleasures. This is his fate, so will we learn the lesson? Pharaoh, who conspired, deceived and killed children for fear of losing his kingdom. So God sent a child who grew up in his palace and this child was the cause of his destruction. So will we learn the lesson? Viewers of the Mother's Memory channel, this is Pharaoh. This is his story and this is his fate. So will we learn the lesson? Do not be deceived by the world and its pleasures from God and his worship. And do not underestimate God's deceit and plotting. For God's deceit is greater. And do not listen to the bad companions around you, for that will destroy everyone. And do not compete with God and his kingdom and sovereignty. For he is the creator and you are the creation. Dear viewer, at the end of each video I say subscribe to the channel and share the video. But I see no better ending than glorifying God. May he include us in his mercy, glory be to him. A world with the measures of the seas. A world with the number of raindrops. And a world with the number of times the night darkens and the day shines upon it. In God's care and protection.